Good evening, friends. Namaskar, Vanakkam, Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, Adab, Bonjour, Hola. Wherever you're tuning from, welcome to Career Shifts podcast. Firstly, a heartfelt thank you for all the love, incredible love to all the conversations and support and engagement you've given to the season one. When I started this podcast last year, it was about career shifts, stories of reinvention, the stories of resilience, leadership, changing nature of work. But what made it really special was you. The reflections, the questions, the insights that poured from across the world. And that's exactly why we are back. Season two is here. But here's the thing, a season, a new one at that, isn't about just picking up from where we left last. It's about raising the bar. It's about doing the new thing. It's about making the conversation deeper. And it's about making it more meaningful. And as I thought about how to make this more relevant and more impactful, one topic kept coming back to me, and that was attention. Think about this. Everything in this world is moving faster than ever before. Notifications, meetings, emails, messages, reels, shorts. The battle for our attention has never been more immense. And yet, most of us believe that our biggest challenge is time. It's not. We don't have less time. We have less focus. We have less attention. And that's why I wanted to start this season with a conversation that challenges everything we think about how time, productivity, and success works. To do this, I knew I needed a guest who has mastered the science of focus. Someone who has not only studied attention but also trained over 150,000 professionals across Fortune 50 companies to reclaim it. My dear friends, welcome Kamlesh to the show.
Thanks, Gopal. Thank you.
13
Congratulations
years
on
ago,
stepping into season two.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. 13 years ago, Kamlesh was at his peak of his career as an executive director at Goldman Sachs. Perhaps I don't know if we might have met at that point of time because I too had a short stint there. But at 35, he walked away, not to find another corporate job, not for an easier path either, but because he saw what rest of us didn't, the attention that is the single most valuable resource we have. Since then, he's worked with global leaders, top executives, and high performing teams, helping them sharpen their focus, eliminate distractions, and unlock their full potential. So, what do we expect in this episode? Today, we will break down the whole aspect of why attention and not time is a real bottleneck to success, the myths about productivity that keeps us stuck in cycle of busyness, how leaders train their minds to operate at peak focus, practical ways to reclaim your attention starting today. And trust me, this isn't about work, this is about life and being fully present and showing up with clarity, energy, and purpose. I couldn't think about better way to launch this season than this episode. But this is just the beginning. Season two, I promise, is going to be bigger, sharper, more thought provoking than ever. And I'm going to bring bold thinkers, unconventional leaders, and real unfiltered conversations about future of work, careers, and personal transformation too. So get ready. This season is going to challenge you. This season is going to inspire you. This season is going to push you to see things differently. But all of that much later. For today, let's focus. Let's dive in. And without further ado, let's dive into the session with Kamlesh Jain. Welcome to the show, Kamlesh. How are you doing?
All is well. Thanks, Gopal. Thanks a lot. Happy Holi to you and happy the Day of Colors. Enjoy the life that we have. Thank you for doing this on this particular day.
Absolutely. I know it's a holiday for a lot of people in India and perhaps some countries around the world as well. But the beauty of doing these podcasts live is that you could do it now and leave it for consumption later. So people people who have busy schedules could find time to make an attempt to listen to this later as well. And I hope
Yeah.
that they. Um, Before we start with our, conversation, do you have any opening thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll give one disclaimer here before I start, because usually this is a
Sure.
disclaimer that I give. So I have an unfortunate tendency of creating a lot of humor in any conversation. And today is Holi, so Bura na mano Holi, just in case I end up saying something about lost hairs, something about marriage, something about something else. Don't file a lawsuit against both of us. Just enjoy the conversation, enjoy the thing that we're trying to do here. But again, I figured out attention as the path accidentally, to be honest. It was not a path that came to me and I was prepared for it and all that. It just was given to me on a platter by the divine, as I call it. Originally, when I started my what you call as the training career, uh, intention was to become a teacher. Like I just loved teaching, and this is like way back to my college days. I used to teach even then. So the idea was to teach and become a teacher. Then somewhere in the process, attention came to me, and then I realized, oh, this is the path that you need to take further. And now I'm laser focused only on focus and attention. So yeah, we'll talk about this more. But yeah,
Lovely. I mean, I could remember my dad on what he just said. I mean, one of the things that he kept pushing me harder, and I keep doing that same to my son. Of course, generationally very different, is do one thing at a time and keep focus on whatever you're doing, because it's very important that you do it well. And that's something that we seem to be as a humanity struggling big time. And we'll get more into that in a bit on the more serious stuff of the conversation. But let's keep it a little lighter to begin with.
yeah.
What was that eureka moment on when you decided that after a lovely, long, fantastic professional career, you wanted to do this? Um, like
Yeah,
some
so I
ball
don't think there
woke
is
up
a
somewhere.
this. Yeah, there is no eureka moment per se. So as I said, I always wanted to be a teacher in my life,
Hmm.
but I ended up accidentally becoming a chartered accountant because my
Wow.
dad wanted me to do CA, and I come from a traditional Marwadi North Indian family, which means CA is a good path to take, sometimes to manage your black money. Yeah. But the idea was that you ended up becoming a CA, then accidentally banking came into my life. I started in the investment banking world pretty early in my life. And I don't know, most people of today's generation will even realize this, but 3 decades ago, becoming a teacher was not considered to be a great thing. 3 decades ago,
I don't
teaching
think
was
anything
not.
has changed even now.
Yeah, so teaching was not necessarily a great profession to choose. If
Hmm.
I don't think I would have even got married if my in-laws knew that I was a teacher. They would definitely would have rejected me. So teaching was never a career path, but it was always there in my heart कि ये करना है कभी life में. And when I
Hmm.
joined my first job, my boss used to tell me, Kamlesh, you're a brilliant teacher. You teach a lot of people. So all my earlier colleagues were hired and trained by me. A lot of them are probably in this call, I don't know. And a lot of them are CEOs of a lot of companies now. But all of them have been trained by me 25, 30 years ago. So I enjoy teaching. But as I said, इसमें पैसा नहीं बनता है. And you need money to have a backing for yourself.
Yeah.
So my original attempt to become a full-time trainer teacher was actually in 2004 when I
Hmm.
was only 28 years of age. So in 2004, I said, I'm leaving the corporate world. I'm going to do a training career. And I did that. And I did trainings in the US. I did a lot of technical skills training, real estate evaluation, Excel modeling, equity modeling, and all that. And then I realized that I was too early. So मैं थोड़ा जल्दी आ गया इस लाइन में. And two reasons. One is I did not have the backing of a very solid resume in my hand. So if
Sure.
I go today, my first introduction is he worked in Goldman Sachs, he worked in Lehman, he worked in Nomura. मैं सिखाता क्या हूँ वो सब बाद में आता है, लेकिन ये कंपनी के नाम पहले चलते हैं. I never had that at that time. So I said, okay, let me go back to the corporate world and I'll come back to this later. So that's when I came back to the corporate world joined Lehman, worked in Lehman, became Nomura, then worked in Goldman. लेकिन बोलते हैं ना कि अंदर कीड़ा रहता है तो that remains with you. The heart is always there. And
Correct.
also I had this manifestation that I did very early in life that at 35 I would quit. Like that was my manifestation that I had very early in life. 35 होने तक मैं वो करूंगा जो मेरे को अच्छा लगता है. And that's where I decided to take the plug out. And I said, okay, I'm not going to leave. And by the way, when I started, I had no plans. I did not know what I'm going to do. I did not know how I'm going to do it. The only thing I assured and ensured was that my bank balance is taken care of. So that is thanks to the career that I had, the golden age of the banking world.
Sure.
So because of that, it was taken care of. So the eureka moment was 35 manifestation. Bank mein balance theek tha, loan liability nahi tha, and I also planned a lot of my life around that. So I never took a loan, I never took a EMI ever in my life, and ensured ki tension nahi hona chahiye life mein. So that's when I triggered the idea. 2 साल के अंदर, from the time I started my training career, originally I used to train in banking, equity market, bond markets, valuation and all that. And a couple of years, there was a client in Bangalore called ANZ. I'm sure all of us know ANZ. They have an office in Manyata Tech Park. And they called me. I was doing corporate domain training programs for them. They called me and said, Kamlesh, we have a problem on the floor. We're making a lot of mistakes. We're making a lot of errors. And that's causing us a lot of quality issues, regulatory issues and all that. Is there a training solution for this? So I went there on the floor, studied them, analyzed, and then I, on one night, accidentally created this training program on attention. तो ये बोलते हैं ना कई हादसे जिंदगी में अच्छे होते हैं. This was an accident that happened. And since then, this program and attention became my focus area. And then also the world changed a lot. 2011, the world was not like this. 2017 was actually the trigger point. We'll talk about that a little later. Lekin that trigger point ensured that I now need to only focus on this. So so long answer to a short question. There was no specific eureka moment, but I always had this desire कि यार teacher बनना है. It's a very satisfying profession, to be honest. रात को नींद अच्छी आती है, लगता है कि किसी को चूना नहीं लगाया. You know that you've not cheated anybody. You know that you are impacting people's life. When somebody comes back to you after the year and says, "Sir, मेरा promotion हो गया thanks to your training," you feel good about it, and that is what I need. So.
Wonderful. As I say, teaching is a noble profession. You try to influence lives through conversations that you have, and I think I've experienced this myself, and probably even this may be called podcast or LinkedIn Live, but at the end of the day, we are trying to educate people through this. So, completely agree. And to all the listeners, viewers watching us, listening to us live, feel free to share your questions. Let us know where you're joining us from. Would love to hear. Drop in your questions on LinkedIn or YouTube, wherever you're watching this live. I'll take this up as we speak. And we have our first guest putting in their comment. Ratul Rudra, season's greetings and happy Holi, Kamlesh sir and Gopal sir. Thank you, Ratul. By no means we have taken knighthood, so we are good to be called as Gopal and Kamlesh. So thank you for that. Please keep coming in. I think it would be great to know which city you're listening in from, and do ask your questions in as well. You mentioned a very interesting thing, Kamlesh, and this has been my personal observation as well. 2010 isn't 2025. A lot has changed. A lot has continued to evolve. A lot people say, at least in the tech world, it happened for good because it kind of helped them with livelihoods, which is a reality. But it also has created a lot of unwanted things, to be honest. And as much as I say this, I know I'm also culprit of that too, of using too much of social media or creating content for people to consume on social media, which is where I'm getting to. How have you seen this evolve? what are your views? You mentioned about 2017, a very interesting, I think, milestone. I'm guessing you will go to uh, 4G revolution of sorts. But let's get to that. I think what happened and how have you seen this evolve? Is it for good or is it for bad?
Yeah, so now, see, there are two or three things. So one is, just think about it, right? Somebody asked me this question a couple of years ago. So Kamlesh, when you studied for your CA, was it easy to study for CA? When I studied 3 decades ago. And I was like, yeah, it was very easy because पढ़ाई करना है तो सिर्फ पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं ना, उसके अलावा कोई option नहीं था. There was nothing else that we could do. And what was distraction in those days for us? There was books that we had to study. It was physical books. There was no screen there. And we had no television at home. We had a landline which would rarely or barely ring. And the conversations were within the family, and that's all. There was nothing else. There was Chitrahar on Wednesday evening. There was movie on Sunday evening. And there was Uliam in Chennai on Friday night or something like that. That's all we had. Life was actually very simple in those days. And so one is this, what you call a tsunami of distractions that came to us. There was another thing that happened. The other thing was we moved from a physical labor world to a digital labor world. So 10, 20 years ago, it was a lot of thing was physical labor. And when technology came, a lot of things became digital, virtual working, sitting on the computer and working. When I used to study for my CA, we used to file income tax returns in handwritten format.
Handwritten,
So we used to write the saral form, paper mein likhte the and all that stuff. Oh, physical labor. But then it all became digital. So I have this very interesting formula called WTF, although people will understand something else from this. But WTF is work is equal to time into focus. 20 years ago, W was equal to T. Focus was a given. Assume था कि वो तो है ही, मतलब वो नहीं जाएगा. It was there, it was essential, and it was a given. But somewhere in the process, this F got damaged. So today, work is not equal to time. Because time, to, as you rightly said, सबके पास 24 घंटे है ना. अंबानी हो, अडानी हो, कमलेश हो, गोपाल हो, सबके पास उतना ही है. The 24-hour remains constant, but what has changed is this focus has gone down. So with focus going down, time remaining constant, work is going down. It's not going up. And Gopal, think about it. 20 years ago, we never heard of this concept called mental health disorders. ये mental health वाला word ही नहीं आया था. I don't remember this word then. Maybe the awareness was low. Maybe that's the reason. But nobody talked about mental health disorders 20 years ago. But ये सारा का सारा change in the last 10, 15 years because of digital world and work moving from physical labor to mental labor. But there's something triggered that happened in 2017, and this was not necessarily 4G, 5G, although that also had a game to play. We always were in this world where we used to pull information. So if you think about it, when you went to a library, you would say, I want to read Tuesdays with Maury. You'll go to the section, search for Tuesdays with Maury, pick out that book, read that book. If you had to read a subject, if you had to buy a movie, you have to pick. So you will pick, you will pull the information.
The choice was in your hand.
The choice was in your hand, and you had the right to do that. 2017 is when this entire so-called big data companies in the US, the social media companies in the US, they figured out there's another way to do this. Instead of pulling information, let's push information. So they changed the game completely. And they said, you know what, you will not now see what you want to see. We will tell you what you have to see. And that's where the game changed. So Facebook had a system earlier where you will go and give a request and all that, but then Facebook created a wall, and then Facebook started dumping all sorts of videos. So now, Gopal, if you watch one video of Sadhguru, from tomorrow onwards, Sadhguru will be on your feed. And right now, you and I talking, my phone is listening to us, and the phone will start giving you ads based on this. So we literally have a spy inside our bedrooms, and we are accepting it. And we are okay with it.
Perhaps
so the trigger point was 2017 is where this change happened. And we were like, wow, this is great, fantastic. We've now got so much content. And now we are reeling under this. So In India, this interesting conversation about 70 hours and 90 hours is going on right now. All right. And it's crazy that people talk about 70 and 90 hours, but I'm like, people work 90 hours, give 30 hours of output. What's the point? So if you work 30 hours, give 40 hours, 50 hours of output, more than happy. But if you work 70 hours and give 30 hours of output, it's a miserable way of working.
That's not a problem. Yeah, that's a bigger problem. Yeah.
And that's a bigger. So I was doing this. I was doing one of my training programs recently, and there was a participant from Norway in that. And she said, Kamlesh, we go to the office at 8:30 in the morning, and we leave the office at 3:30 in the afternoon. 8:30 to 3:30. We work 7 hours, rigid, disciplined work. But when we leave at 3:30, we leave.
Yeah.
But that's not the case in a lot of other places. So this whole tsunami, and then plus COVID did a lot of damage. All of this accumulated, which to be honest, it's great for my business, but I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
I'm not happy about the fact that the world is going in a exact opposite direction where it should not be.
Correct.
So,
Yeah. No, I hear you. And I do have an observation on that, which I will share. But before that, let's get to some comments that have come in. Radha Krishnan, I'm from Chennai, would like to seek advice from our great man, how to set up a goal and how to get it attained. That's Radha Krishnan's question. Srinivasan says, I'm from Chennai. Sapna Vijay says, Happy Holi, I'm from Hyderabad. Hello, Sapna. Hello, Srinivasan. I think Radhakrishnan has again asked a question on also about Vipassana, which I remember we spoke about that as well, and we'll get to that too. Rahul from Noida wanted to check if there are any individual coaching on mindfulness available, or are these only corporate workshops that can make one learn of the same? We'll get to that too in a bit. Parvati here from Bangalore, Shubhaprada says, very nostalgic, I'm guessing, to the comment on your television, Chitrahar. And she says, Happy Holi to both of us. Thank you so much, Parvati. This is someone, I know it says LinkedIn user, but I just looked at who it was. I'm guessing this is someone who you know, Adesh Sharma.
okay.
Kamlesh, he says, I'm from Morgan Stanley. I've been following post comments on LinkedIn, really enlightening and ponder me to implement on my daily corporate life. And yeah, someone is interested to know also about how much attention you are able to imbibe in your family members.
Yeah.
So yeah, great.
That's a challenging question. I would say family members, yes. Wife, no. On a lighter note, don't file a case.
Yeah.
And my wife is not listening to this conversation.
Well, so coming back to, and I see a lot of comments keep coming, which is great. But coming back to the question on, things that have changed, and things that have changed for not so much in our favor as well. I would say, I'll continue to say that I think what happened with technology is good because it also keeps livelihoods of a lot of people intact. If imagine Facebook, Google, Meta, or whatever did not do what they did in the last 8 years, a lot of engineers would not have had jobs, perhaps. So we need a way to balance some of these as well. But it also has had a challenge where controls have been taken out of our hands, and we are in many ways not in control of what we want to be consuming. And that has led to a pandemic which is bigger than what we just saw. What are your views on one? You've been doing this training for the last 13, 15 years now. How have you seen this affect the workforce? And more so in the last 8 years that you just said about since 2017.
Yeah, so to answer your question on, or at least the perspective that you added, that technology is great, it has given so many opportunities and all that. Now, remember, we are all in evolution. And in evolution, everything is great, nothing wrong with that. My grandfather never used to track 10,000 steps a day. He used to by default do
True.
25,000 steps in a day because in
Mm.
those days there was no car, there was no taxi, there was no scooter. So he had to walk. There was no other way out.
Yeah.
Today we have cars and taxis and Olas and Ubers everywhere, and therefore we don't
Yeah.
walk. So now what do we need to do? We need to wake up at 5:30 in the morning, go for a walk. Now the
Yeah.
point is we can't undo and we can't rewind what we have done, but there are some essentials of our life that we can't let go.
Correct.
And that is where physical fitness to some extent is understood now. Because now I
Mm.
can see a lot of people running marathons have become popular.
Yeah.
A lot of companies are taking care of physical fitness because they've understood the damage is just way too big.
Mm.
When a movie starts in India, there's a disclaimer on tobacco. There's a guy
Mm.
called Mukesh who comes on the screen with a cancer photograph and all that. There's a disclaimer for tobacco. There's a disclaimer for alcohol, knowing very well that these are things which damage you.
Correct.
If you take within limits, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you lose control, you're gone. So there are rules for this because after 30 years of existence, 50 years of existence, people have realized that Baba, इसमें problem hai.
Correct.
There are no rules for technology, no.
Mm.
There are no rules for social media. There are companies and countries which have now realized this. I don't know if everybody probably have heard about this. Australia was one of the first countries in the world to take an action on this, and they said 16 years and below kids cannot have social media access. They've taken an
Mm.
action. They have
Mm.
passed a law
Mm.
for this. It's a law passed in the Parliament of Australia. Sweden, a country which is known for its technological advancement, a few days ago, I saw a video and then I read about it. About 6 months back, this happened. They have banned screens in schools and educational institutions. They're going
Wow.
back to pen, paper, and board.
Mm.
So the point is, you can either realize after you're damaged completely, and then the reversal process takes a lot of time, or you realize at the same time that इसको balance करके ही चलते हैं. There's nothing wrong.
True.
इसको balance करके चलते हैं. Physical health is understood. Mental health is not.
Yeah.
Damaging and consuming so much of garbage, and I use the word garbage to an extreme extent, because what happens is, as you get into the social media, what you call as suction system, अंदर जाने के बाद you can't get out. So I can
Correct.
challenge all the viewers here and whoever is watching this, including you and me, tell me honestly, if you are on Instagram and you have 5 minutes to kill and you decide to go on Instagram for 5 minutes, tell me honestly if you can come out in 5 minutes. If you can come out in 5 minutes, you are a master. But if you cannot come out in 5 minutes, you are a slave. And we've all become slaves of technology. If I smoke one cigarette and I can control with one cigarette, no problem at all. If I can drink one glass of wine and I stop, I'm okay with it. But if the moment you see the bottle calls you, the moment you see a like on your Instagram post that calls you, you're done. That is over. So we have lost our control now. And
Yeah.
nobody talks about it. In fact, with COVID happening, with all this digital revolution happening, everybody knows this is a problem. Nobody is undoing this problem at all. So that's the first aspect of your technology part. The second aspect about has it impacted in the last 8 years, whatever 10 years I've worked with participants and all.
Mm.
So I have this fundamental belief, and this is my fundamental belief, a lot of people dispute this, that there are 3 levels of knowledge, and this is something that I learned from Vipassana as well. There's something called Shrut Pragya, there's something called Chintanmayi Pragya, and there's something called Bhavanamayi Pragya. So to simplify it, Shrut Pragya is knowledge by reading. It's like reading a book. That's Shrut Pragya, reading. Chintanmayi Pragya is not reading, but analyzing, understanding, evaluating. That's Chintanmayi Pragya, discussing, debating. Right now, you and me are doing what is called a Chintanmayi Pragya.
Mm.
But the real wisdom is not in Shrut and Chintan, is in experiencing it.
Mm.
When you experience is when you learn. You
Yeah.
and I cannot
True.
learn swimming by reading books on swimming. And Gopal, I have this funny example that I give, that there are probably more videos on yoga on YouTube than people doing yoga. And there are videos from Narendra Modi on yoga, and there are videos from Shilpa Shetty also on yoga.
Oh, yeah.
लेकिन योगा करता कौन है? So when
Yoga se nahi
Chintanmay
hoga.
Pragya becomes too much, Chintanmay Pragya becomes too much, when
Hmm.
Shrutmay Pragya becomes too much, what we lose is our ability to do things, experience them.
Correct.
एक अमिताभ बच्चन का एक डायलॉग था खुदा गवाह पिक्चर में, which said that सोच गहरी हो जाए तो फैसले कमजोर हो जाते हैं.
Wow. Hmm.
So what is happening now is people are not experiencing it. So the reason why I have been blessed by God and this program has become extremely powerful and successful is because people experience the difference. I start the
True.
program with doing some tests on people and say, you know what, let's test your attention levels right now. There are some simple tests done on this. And people realize, oh man, I have a real problem of attention. And then I give them the techniques and the methods and all that. But eventually I tell them, you know what, don't listen to me, experience it. And when they experience it, they realize, oh man, 6 hours, if I can get my attention back, imagine what will happen on an everyday basis. So that's where my own existence has been validated, and that's where this program has become validated. But again, to be honest, although 150,000 people have attended the program, studied, gone through the process, I can guarantee you 90% of them are not doing it.
True.
Because the tsunami is so much.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at least 10% have got impacted. So अपना काम तो 10% के लिए है. That's all our job is.
Correct. It's like that Delhi fog, smog rather.
Yeah.
Can't do much. You have to breathe and hope that you don't fall sick or.
Yeah. And people realize only after they have crossed and मतलब वो hospital जाने के बाद लगता है कि यार health पे ध्यान रख लेना चाहिए. In fact, one of the funny things I ask people is, do we have more traffic in yoga centers or hospitals? And people
Bangalore
say hospitals. Bangalore traffic that's a different conversation for altogether. So there's more traffic in hospitals, not in yoga centers.
Yeah.
Why do people not go to yoga centers? If you had gone to yoga centers, hospital जाने की जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ती. लेकिन वो समझते तभी है जब hospital जाते हैं. So you sometimes realize only after losing it.
Correct. We only value what we don't have as humanity. So that's real and true. So yeah, I mean, great points, great observations. But we are all victims of being a corporate employees.
Yeah.
The same old Norwegian colleague of yours could perhaps, or client of yours could perhaps switch off after 3 p.m.
Yeah.
That's a luxury for many in India. The expectation is that you need to keep working long hours, or probably, I think we have done this to ourselves. If you really ask me, that's what I would say. There was a video on Instagram or Facebook, I don't know. This lady was driving her car at 80 kilometers per hour and typing her mails on the laptop, which is insanity to next level. But what could people do? What can someone do to come out of this? Are there any tips or guidance that you can give to the audience listening in?
All right. So Gopal and the audience, a couple of questions to you. And I'll give you some thoughts as well. So I in fact, work with one of the big 4 firms. And about 6 months back, I had gone to their office to deliver a training program for them. Incidentally, when I walked into the office floor, and this was in DLF Cyber Park, Gurgaon, fairly new building, fantastic office. When I walked into the office, they had a lot of these small rooms which can fit only one person, and they were called focus rooms.
Wow.
So the room was called focus room. So my direct question to one of the partners there was, कि भाई अगर ये rooms में focus है तो बाहर क्या है? So the fact that you call some rooms as focus rooms, this tells you that you've accepted the fact that on the floor you only have distraction. And the partner had no answer to it. The partner said, "यार कमलेश बात तो बराबर बोला, लेकिन direct मत बोला कर." So that was one. But I'll give you another example here. So how many of us have gone to the office when there was nobody else in the office, or very few people in the office? So Gopal, have you ever visited you must have gone to the office early in the morning, or maybe on a holiday, or maybe on a weekend. When you go to the office when there are nobody's there, very few people are there, are you more productive or less productive?
More productive.
And are you doing better quality work or less quality work?
Better quality work.
Why?
No distraction.
You know this, right?
Yeah.
You know this. But the problem is we don't understand all this anymore. So now we think that having 20 people around you, doing 5 things at the same time is a way of life. That's not the way of life. When I started my career in Chennai in a company called GRO, Raheja Towers, when I used to go there in that office, I was always at 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the office. Like I drop my kids 7:30, I'm in the office. The shift starts at 9:30. But morning 7:30 to 9:30, the amount of work that I got done was greater than from 9:30 to 6:30 in the evening. So the simple question to everybody here is कि भाई जब 2 घंटे में आपको पता है कि आप 8 घंटे का काम कर सकते हो, तो उस 2 घंटे में क्या होता था ऐसा? That's all we need to learn. What
Correct.
did we do in those 2 hours? We disabled all notifications. We switch off every kind of distraction. And by the way, Gopal, nowadays we do a lot of these online programs, virtual sessions. And I personally am not a big fan of virtual sessions.
Yeah.
Especially if the cameras are off. Because I
Worst.
know the guy is not listening to me. I know the guy
Yeah.
is doing 6 things at the same time.
Yeah.
And we think that's a way of life. And Gopal, somewhere in our corporate world, we also introduced a concept called working lunch. I am sure you've heard of this working lunch. So we thought lunch was such a redundant thing to do. कि बाबा लंच को सिर्फ लंच ही क्यों करते हैं, लंच को वर्क के साथ जोड़ो,
लंच में भी काम कर लेंगे.
लंच में भी काम करें. So all of this is something that we have somehow fancily introduced in our life. Working lunch. Neither is work happening nor lunch is happening, but we are showing off that we are working a lot. So this lady that you talked about driving the car and having a laptop in their hand is not a new thing. You go to any cafeteria of any corporate world, in the cafeteria, people are with their laptops and with their
Or
food.
mobile phones. Yeah.
How do we encourage such things in our life? But sadly, we have done all this. And Gopal, the bigger problem is, and as I do programs for the last 14 years, I've also seen a new generation coming into my training program.
Yeah.
Because the entire generation, the so-called Gen Zs, or I don't know what they call
Digital
it,
first, digital nomads.
digital first generation, they think this is how life is. They think this is how we are supposed to be. For example, there are some trainers that I know who train people on how to be a better multitasker. Multitasking is a myth.
It is.
And there are companies which organize a program on how to become a better multitasker. There are gurus. If you go to Instagram, there are gurus who teach you how to become better multitasker. Problem ये है कि हम लोग इन सब चीजों को मान चुके हैं कि ऐसे ही होगा. And therefore we don't undo. We just have to get back to basics. We just have to get back to our foundational. Do one thing at a time, limit distraction, finish one thing, go to the next, finish one thing, go to the next. Learn to take breaks, learn to do meditation, learn to organize yourself. Go back to our foundation principles of life. लेकिन सब धीरे-धीरे सब लोग भूलते जा रहे हैं. People have forgotten. I'll give you another example. I recently did a program just a couple of weeks ago. This was an audience which was all Gen Zs. So this was an audience which was in the range of 22 to 25 years of age. All of them recently graduated, a couple of years in the corporate world. And I was talking to them about something called circadian rhythm. I said that you need to have a body clock for yourself, and you need to give a discipline to certain things in your day-to-day life. For example, eating, sleeping, waking up, all of these are biological tasks. Give a schedule to all of this. And this is, by the way, not me. There is a Nobel guy who got a Nobel Prize for medical science 7-8 years ago. So I was talking to them about this. There was one lady who said, Kamlesh, you're wrong. I said, what happened? They said, no, Kamlesh, you're wrong. If you go back to evolution, man was a hunter. And when man was a hunter, he used to go and hunt. And जब खाना मिल जाएगा तब खाते थे, जब सोने मिलता था तब सोते थे. मैं बोला ये ज्ञान आपको कहाँ से मिला? बोले Instagram. So the problem is when an entire generation is being raised like this, where you are assuming that multitasking is a way of life, you're assuming that doing 7 things at the same time is a way of life. You're watching. Gopal, think about it. You watch 30-second reels throughout your life, 30-second reels. And then you're expected to come to a big four firm and read a legal document which is 120 pages.
Yeah.
कैसे पढ़ोगे आप? पढ़ ही नहीं पाओगे ना? You can't.
Can't.
Now, how do you solve this problem? You have to go back to basics, which is why I love Sweden, I love Japan, I love these countries which still have the
Yeah.
basics intact.
Yeah.
India somehow, again, some people will call me anti-Indian if I say the statement, but in India we have 12-year-old influencers nowadays. मतलब 12 साल के बच्चे influencer बने घूम रहे हैं market में. There are 10-year-old spiritual gurus available in the market nowadays. There's one guy who's 10-year-old. He's a spiritual Baba. I'm like, fantastic, man. This is the world that we have created. And the problem is the generation that we are seeing next is raising with all this. तो इनको लगता है यही सब सत्य है. अब इनको कौन समझाए? Only way they learn is by experience. And
Correct.
we have to go back to basics. We have to go back to basics.
Yeah. So, Kamlesh, if there were two things that, or three things, or whatever that number is, that individuals can do differently starting today to get back their time, what should that be?
Three things, very simple. Number one, use social media as pull information, not push. Go to social media with a desire that I want to see this. I want to read about this. Social media is not bad. Technology is not bad. But you should go there with intent. You can't be just sucked into the system. So let's say I want to read something about what happened with the gold prices in the last 1 week. So I go and search for that. And I only search for what I want to search. So use it as pulling information. By the way, I don't know if I can show you my phone here. So let's see if I can actually show my phone to you. So this is my, I don't know if you can see this. So this is my YouTube.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
Exactly.
So this is my YouTube. It doesn't have any videos. YouTube cannot tell me what videos I need to watch.
What should I watch?
I will tell YouTube what video I want to watch. So inverts the process, become a master, go and become a pull information when you are on social media. That's number one thing to do. That's like the fundamental first step that we need to take. Also, obviously, the limits. There are tools available. There are apps nowadays available. Be in master of that. That's one. Number two is something that I'm very, very particular about, is drawing lines between every aspect of your life. So when you come back home, you're now at home. You have to stop working. And if you have a couple of hours of work, finish it, no problem. But you can't be taking your laptop in the middle of the night and checking what email has come, whether my boss has escalated something. People sleep, wake up, go to the washroom, come back. They're supposed to sleep again. But they'll open the laptop. They'll open the smartphone. They'll check your boss ko koi email aaya kya. And Gopal, remember, we are all working in a global environment. So somebody's boss in the US, somebody's boss in Australia, and so therefore we don't get this. So you have to have very clear disciplines about life, about schedule, biological clock, very, very rigid. We'll talk about Vipassana if we get time, and it talks about discipline as well. Sure. And the third thing, which is probably the most important, and something that maybe from 5 years from now everybody will understand, is you have to do meditation. Like people have to do physical exercise, like people have to do walking, like people have to do yoga and go to gym, you have to do meditation. You can't dump this small piece of device here with all sorts of terabytes of data and assume that this is okay. You have to empty it. You have to flush it out. And meditation has to become a standard operating procedure for everyone in our day-to-day life. By the way, the Western world has understood this. When I go to Vipassana, a lot of participants are actually coming from the Western world. More than 30-40% sometimes in my class sessions are from Australia, from US, are from Sweden, Switzerland and all that. But in India, we don't understand this. तो इसको बोलते हैं ना वो दिए तले अंधेरा हम ही ने बनाया हम ही को नहीं पता इसके बारे में. So meditation, ritualization of your day-to-day life, and going back to pulling information versus pushing information from social media. Those are the three things. If we can do these three things, that would give a significant bump up to our productivity overall.
Wonderful. As simple as it sounds, I'm sure a lot of people listening in, watching, reading would say it's complex, but it kind of gives me a view on all of what you're saying is boils down to one word called mindfulness, and I think we have stopped being mindful about things.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I remember in school we were always being told of mind your language, mind your tongue, mind your this, mind your that. I think we have
Yeah.
just thrown that away out somewhere,
Yeah.
and we've become
Yeah.
mindless creatures.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do we do to get that back?
All right. So this is again, sadly, mindfulness has been there in the world for 2,500 years. As a
Mm,
concept, it has been there since the time of Buddha. It
mm,
was never in mainstream till about 2 decades ago.
mm,
And in the last 15, 20 years, it has suddenly become mainstream. And in
mm.
the last 10, 5 years after COVID, even bigger mainstream topic. The
Yes.
point is very simple. Gopal,
Mm,
sadly, we don't realize that doing anything with complete concentration is a
mm.
meditation by itself. I'll give you some
Yes.
examples. Some participants can relate to it. So imagine you have a young kid at home, or imagine
Mm,
you have a dog or a pet at home.
mm.
And imagine you had a long, tiring day, like 12, 14 hours of long, tiring day plus Bangalore traffic. You reach home after 12, 14 hours and you're completely burnt out, stressed out. And you reach home and you play with your kid, you play with your dog, you play with your pet for 15 minutes. What happens after those 15 minutes?
You feel energized. You feel more
All your
like wanting
energy
to do
comes back
more.
to you again,
Yeah.
right? All your
Yes.
energy comes back. How does a 12-hour stress go in 15 minutes? And bina
Mm,
medicine ke, bina dawai ke. Think about it. Because you are present completely in that moment. This is what
mm.
our lifestyle was. When we used to
Correct.
eat, we only used to eat.
Eat. Yeah.
I don't know, Gopal, if you are able, I'm sure you will be able to relate. But in our childhood days, when we used to eat food, our parents used to say, eat in silence.
Correct.
खाना मौन से खाते थे हम लोग. लेकिन
Peshadi ki
आजकल
chapel
खाना
is
मौन
what I
से नहीं
remember.
खाते, आजकल 7 डिवाइस हाथ में चाहिए. We are not silent anymore. Even for examples, I don't know, some participants here may be playing musical instruments. If
Mm,
somebody loves playing musical instruments, somebody loves drawing, somebody loves painting, somebody loves doing mandala art, you
yeah.
do that for 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. You don't even realize half an hour has gone by.
Correct.
Now, these are things, and by the way, sadly, these things have now become therapy.
Mm.
So there is mandala art therapy. All of the जो
Yes.
चीज हमारी जिंदगी में नॉर्मल थी उसको हमने थेरेपी बना दिया है. क्योंकि नॉर्मल
Mm,
जिंदगी से में तो थेरेपी लगेगी ना. So if you lose
mm.
immunity, you'll have to take vaccines. But if you
Correct.
have immunity, you don't have to take vaccines.
Correct.
So that's where we lost.
Mm,
Now, obviously, we can't go back to our olden days. But what can you do? You can do some things. You can take time out every day, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever is possible for you, and sit still in one place. Do one
mm,
thing at a time. Whether it's drawing, whether it's journaling, whether it's painting, do whatever you want to do, but do one thing. I
mm,
have so I
mm.
have this one person, brilliant gentleman. I've never met him, but I love his writings. He writes a lot on LinkedIn. He's written a book, recently published a book called 7 a.m. on LinkedIn. Asim Dhruv. I am sure you must have read his post. So every Monday, first thing I have to do go is at 7 o'clock, log in on LinkedIn and read his post. That's like my pulling information. He's an enlightened soul, to be honest, like brilliant guy. In one of the
Wow.
podcasts, he said that I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. When nobody else is in the house awake, he wakes up at 4:30 in the morning. At that time, he does for 90 odd minutes either meditation or reading or writing or journaling or anything, but he does focused 90 minutes of that. You and I have to learn to do this.
Correct.
15 minute, 20 minute karoge, so you will realize what the power is. And
Yeah.
Gopal,
Yeah.
I'll give you one other example. So when I do this program of mine called PACT, Power of Attention and Concentration Training, in the 7th hour of this program, we experience it. So we experience the difference and all that. And one of the common questions that I ask all the participants when they end the session is, right now, is your energy level higher or lower? And this is after 7 hours of sitting inside a classroom. And invariably, I've always got a response that our energy levels are extremely high right now. And there's a reason for it, because in the last 90 minutes of this program, I take away their mobile phones. I make them do a meditation, and I make them do an activity for about 40 minutes, and they see the results. तो जब result दिखता है तो समझ में आता है. It's not complicated. It's not difficult at all.
Yeah.
It is just that the world is going in one direction, and you have to realize that direction is wrong. You have to go somewhere else for this.
Yeah. I agree. Completely agree. And as I said, it requires a lot more of mindfulness, thoughtfulness, and courage, perhaps, to do it the way you need to do. And I think getting back to basics is something that
this word courage that you used is interesting. And I have this very fond thing of saying that logon ko. So I'll give you an example here. Gopal,
sure.
What do you want to give your children as a gift? A few $1 million in the bank, a few $1 million as property, or you living healthy till the time you die?
I'm living healthy till the time I die.
You know that, right? So there's no doubt in that, right? And if you want to live healthy, you have to give these things priority. I have a relative whose grandmother is 105 years of age.
Wow.
Great-grand, 105 years of age, okay? She does all her activities even today by herself. All her activities. She cannot go for running. She has a cycling machine. She does cycling herself. She fasts every 14 days, at least twice or thrice. 105 years of age, and she's fit and fine. And her own kids have been on the bed for 5 years. Now you decide what is priority for you in life. You want all the bank balance, and you want to be in the hospital, and you want your kids to crib about when will this guy die? Or you want to say, you know what, my dad lived completely, my mom lived completely, and I'm happy. Decide what you see. So I have the saying that know the art of dying, and that will tell you the art of living. मरना सीख लोगे तो जीना आ जाएगा. मरना ही नहीं आता, हम रोज ही मर रहे हैं.
Very powerful. True. Yeah, and I think I'm sure a lot of people listening in or who will listen to it later would say this, that all of what you're saying is something that we already know, but we've just forgotten, or we have just not paid attention to it, as you would say.
So Gopal, there's an interesting concept around it. And this is a very powerful concept. So Gopal, what is the difference between a well and a water tank? What is the difference between a well and a water tank?
Well has the ability to recharge itself.
There you go. So in a well, you remove the sand and the stone and the mud from outside, and water is always there.
Correct.
And it is there, but you have to remove the sand and the mud and all that. What is a water tank? In a water tank, you bring sand and steel and cement from outside, and you construct. And you also bring water from outside.
Correct.
Now tell me, Gopal, which water remains fresh? In the water tank or in the well?
Well.
All those things that you and I are talking about, basics, are well. But we have started believing in water tanks now. Baba, andar jao thoda. And when you go inside, remove the sand, remove all the garbage that you have created in your head. उन सबको हटाओगे तो आपको पता चलेगा कि energy कहाँ है.
True.
That's the
key. Very true. Well, we can go for hours and hours together on this topic, because it is something that is very close to our hearts. I mean, I started waking up at 4:35 every day in the morning. And I use that time to write. I use that time to I used to meditate first, but now I find writing meditative. So I write
Yeah,
mainly, some of which is something that you sometimes end up seeing on LinkedIn as well. But
yeah.
yeah, I should thank my wife because she teaches music at that time in the morning to her students based in the US. So I have no other option but to get up. So I do that. But that's good for me as well.
Yeah.
Um, it boils down to really discipline, rituals, doing things, the way you should, and perhaps being very, very attentive and good at the
So
basics, as you
Gopal,
said.
there was one participant who mentioned about
Yeah.
Vipassana. There was one guy who asked about
Yes.
Vipassana,
Yes.
and you
Yes.
talked about
Yes.
discipline rituals. So if anybody has done Vipassana, anybody knows about Vipassana, you have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. 4:30, you have to be in the meditation hall, and you get to sleep at 9 o'clock in the night, 9:30 in the night. Food is served exactly at the same time, 6:30 every day morning. 11:30 is the second meal that you're served. Old students like me cannot even get the third meal. We get only lemon water or something like that in the evening. So we have almost 16 or 18 hours of intermittent fasting. And you have to do this for 10 days. And Gopal, the best part is all of this happens without anybody talking. Nobody's talking, nobody's reading, nobody's writing. That is the power of ritualization. That is the power of giving a routine to yourself. That is the power of giving discipline to yourself. And that is the power of meditation overall. Because, and I go there every year, I wish I can go there every year till I die. But when you go there and you come back, you realize, man, this is life. This is
Mm,
what we need in our life.
mm,
And that's it. You don't need anything else. You don't take any medicines, you're fit and fine. And by the way, we don't do any physical activity there. There's only mental clarity. And as they say, right, every disease actually starts from the mind, shows up in the body.
mm.
तो दिखती बॉडी पे है, लेकिन शुरू दिमाग से होती है. So if you can empty this, if you can give discipline, and our grandparents lived life like this. Gopal, I'm sure your
Yeah.
grandfather would wake up
Yes,
every day
absolutely.
morning, the bell of the temple rings. When the bell of the temple rings, everybody in the community will get up, go to the temple, go to the
Yeah.
mosque, go to the church. Standard procedures. लेकिन उन सबका
Yeah.
science था. Somewhere we have forgotten
Correct.
about.
Correct. 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 No, no. I in fact wrote about this. I mean, in terms of the way our livings have changed
Yeah,
since the '60s, a couple of weeks ago, and I think that post got quite a lot of viewership as well as comments on how agraharams used to be, and
yeah,
the nothing but discipline, right? I mean, we knew what needs to be done, how it should be done. There was no one worried about mental well-being there because everyone knew what's happening in the other house any which ways. There were
yeah,
walls, but
yeah,
not so
yeah.
much. It's only to kind of protect you from physical issues and not so much about what's up. I mean, you would know everything about the things that are happening in the other house.
Yeah, but the
But yeah, I
problem
mean,
is,
it's
think about it. Today we have people with millions of followers on LinkedIn and YouTube and Instagram, and they don't
yeah,
have two friends. उनकी जिंदगी में दो दोस्त नहीं मिलेंगे आपको. What's the
nahi
point of
milenge.
having so many followers when you can't even have friends with you?
Correct, correct, correct.
You have to
And
get
that's what I
back
mean.
to.
I was talking to one of my friends um, last month when I was in Hyderabad, and we were just talking about why friends are important. And one of the things that I told was there's a very small video, and it's a larger video, but a smaller section of that video by Zakir Khan, who's a stand-up comedian, and he said,
Yeah,
"Kuch bhi ho jaye, I just need 4 people at the end of the day to pick up my janaza."
yeah, yeah,
And us din jo aayenge is what matters to me the most than anything else. I mean, I
yeah,
don't know who will come, but I hope that there are people on that day at least. And that's what is the most hard hitting fact. How does that even work these days? Very hard, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, that's life. I hope that we all work towards uh, our livelihoods in a manner where we are able to find those 4 people in our lives. Not many, just 4 people.
yeah,
And as we live the life, we live the life attentively with all that Kamlesh and I spoke in the last an hour, and I didn't realize that the hour has gone by. Kamlesh, I have a few questions before we, stop the session for today. But it's
Yeah.
more on the aspects. I mean, you've shared some of the fantastic inputs, and a lot of people would have shared their thoughts, their comments as well. But now it's about you, a bit about you as to what kind of energizes you, motivates you. So if we can do a quick rapid fire on that.
Yeah.
um, One daily habit that instantly boosts your focus.
Ritualization of all my biological tasks.
Hmm.
So I have a fixed time for eating, I have a fixed time for sleeping, I have a fixed time to wake up. Even if I'm traveling and I'm not able to sleep at a particular time, I will still wake up at that time. So it's all like standard operating procedure. And literally everybody knows that at 7:15 Kamlesh is having chai. At 10:15 he's having his lunch. Well, predictable. Hai. So it makes life a lot more
Ten
easier for me.
fifteen.
Yeah, so I have only the first meal, the big meal is 10:15, and then I eat a little bit in the afternoon. I don't eat anything in the evening. And
Wow.
yeah, that's a ritual.
Maybe we should do a separate session on that.
It's
Deep
just
work or
about
quick
uh,
sprints? Yeah.
deep work for sure. Well, I just love the concept of doing 60, 90 minutes of focused work and then done. I have a lot of time for myself. A lot of my friends, so I have this friend community in my society that I live. And anytime they call me, it's Kamlesh sir, walk पे चल रहे हो क्या? मैं बोला हाँ ready हो जा. And sometimes they ask me, यार आप जब तक फ्री रहते हो? मैं बोला मैं फ्री रहता हूँ क्योंकि मैं 2 घंटे में 8 घंटे का काम कर लेता हूँ. आप लोगों को दो
So
घंटे की
true.
जगह 8 घंटे लग रहे हैं.
Like
So
the
that's another aspect of deep work, giving a ritualization. But I have this one fundamental, what you call as desire in life. Although desires are bad for life, but I don't ever want to go to a hospital and a lawyer. मतलब दो
ah,
जगह जहाँ मुझे कभी नहीं जाना है is a doctor and a lawyer.
yeah.
Now I don't know. I'm getting old. My machine is getting older, and my
Hmm.
machine will ask take me to a doctor. I don't know. But जितना हो
Hmm.
सकेगा नहीं जाना है. Now whatever is
Hmm.
required to be done for that, I will do. अगर मुझे भागना है तो भागूंगा, बैडमिंटन खेलना है तो खेलूंगा, मेडिटेशन करना है तो करूंगा, सोना है उठना है सब कुछ करना है तो करूंगा ही, डाउट ही नहीं है उसमें, क्योंकि मुझे वहां नहीं जाना है. That's the intention. तो वो आपका
Great
पर्पस
desire
फिक्स
to
है तो
have. Yeah.
पर्पस फिक्स है तो
Yeah.
then you have no problems in life.
Wonderful. I'm going to take a couple of questions that have come in. I think there is a lot of dialogue, which is fantastic. People have kind of shared their tips of what they have been doing to remain focused, remain
Yeah.
meditative. So fantastic on that part. But one question that Rahul has asked is, what is best place to do Vipassana, a course in India, or are all places the same? Please advise.
Every single place is the same. There is no difference in any place. You get exact same training, exact same methodology. It's replicated exactly the same way everywhere. The only difference would be the environment. Like if you're not good at handling cold, then you may not want to go to north. If you're not good at handling humidity, you may not want to go to south. Depends on that. And other than that, maybe there is a difference in the food that is served in that particular place. But otherwise, the methodology is same. Go wherever you want to go, and it doesn't make a difference at all.
Wonderful. Any parting thoughts, Kamlesh, for the audience that is listening in?
I think this I was talking to you about before the start. We are right now in the 5th anniversary of COVID.
Yes.
So COVID को गए हुए 5 साल हो गए. मार्क जकरबर्ग को पुल से पुश करते हुए 10 साल हो गए. My
Yeah.
request to everybody is COVID is gone, but the after effect of COVID is still left.
Yes.
COVID told us that work can be brought at home. And then we said work can be brought to the bedroom. Then we said work can be brought 24/7. COVID is gone, but the bad habits still remain. So my humble request is if you really want to celebrate COVID, the 5th anniversary of COVID, which I think you should
Get
all
rid of
celebrate, you
this.
should cut a cake or something like that. कि हम लोग जिंदा हैं, कुछ हुआ नहीं. But I would say we need to undo all those bad habits that we've developed.
Yes.
Gopal, I
Yeah.
asked this question to a lot of participants. How many of us have gained weight in the last 5 years? And you ask yourself, why do you gain weight in the last 5 years? Because you destroyed your biological clock. You
Yes.
started snacking, you started Haldiram, by the way, recently has got a funding from Temasek, I'm told, a couple of $1 billion, $10 billion valuation. पापा दिन भर हल्दीराम खाओगे, दिन भर मंचिंग करोगे, दिन भर मतलब स्नैकिंग करोगे, तो यही होगा. COVID is gone. The after effect of COVID is still left.
Correct.
I would
Correct.
humbly request all the participants here, and this is not for the benefit of Gopal and Kamlesh. This is for your own personal well-being and your own children's well-being. कि थोड़ा undo करो, थोड़ा basics पे वापस जाओ, थोड़ा वापस वहां जाओ जहां हमारे grandparents होते थे, जहां हमारे forefathers होते थे. Instead of watching all these so-called social media gimmick, go back to our foundation roots. That's important. So Gopal, let me ask you a question and the audience a question. Is intermittent fasting good or bad?
I've never done it, so I wouldn't know.
So Gopal, there will be 50 videos on YouTube which says it is good, 50 videos which will say it is bad.
Bad.
अब कैसे decide करोगे आप क्या है? मसाला चाय is good or bad?
Tea is not.
The more you go on social media, the more confused you will
get
become.
Confused.
So I keep saying this on a lighter note that even Confucius will get confused in this world. हम लोग को थोड़ा simple करना पड़ेगा life. So just get back to a little bit of basics. थोड़ा simplify करो. Life इतनी complicated है नहीं. हमने इसको बना दिया complicated. हम लोग simple थोड़ा रहना शुरू करो. मजा आता है life में. Such a beautiful gift God has gifted us. Such an amazing gift God has gifted us. And instead of celebrating that gift, we are cribbing about कि यार ये दे दे वो दे दे. नहीं होगा. थोड़ा simple कर लो life को. बस और कुछ नहीं चाहिए.
True that. I think being simple, and I think I'm reminded of that quote that you would have heard it in Bawarchi, which is Rajesh Khanna's movie. It's so difficult to be simple, but so simple to be happy. Which I think is the most tough part. We all need to find ways to be happy and focus on simplicity. With that, thank you very much, Kamlesh. I really appreciate you taking the time to join on this inaugural episode of the second season. It's going to be a lot more reflective for me as well as others who would listen to this or are listening to this and figure out a way to come out and do things as a ritual. I'm sure you would see a lot of these questions and comments tomorrow when you get time. If there are any interesting ones, please do take a bit of time to respond to them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Is there a way that people can reach out to you via LinkedIn or?
Yeah, so you can always connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the only social media platform that I use. You can always go to my website. It's called attentioninstitute.in. You can always reach out there. But don't expect a real-time response from me because I'm not real-time on social media. But I have blocks of time when I use all of these things. So when I go there, I'll check and confirm, but otherwise not.
Well said.
Right.
So thank you so much for your time.
So Gopal, before we sign off, can I share one last story? I have this bad habit of sharing a lot of stories.
Sure.
This is usually a story that it's one of my favorites. So Gopal, there was once a gwala, a shepherd, if I can use that word, who was happy, peaceful, and he was in his farmland, and he was sitting below the tree, and he was blowing his bansuri. तो एक ग्वाला था बैठ के बांसुरी बजा रहा है. And there was a corporate employee, somebody like you and me and some of our listeners, who walks into that farmer's land, and they say कि यार ये young ग्वाला है, जवान लड़का है, पेड़ के नीचे बैठ के बांसुरी क्यों बजा रहा है? So this young guy, corporate employee, goes to this gwala and says कि यार कुछ तो कर. And this corporate employee says कुछ तो कर. And this guy is saying क्या करूं? मेरे पास 2 गाय है, वो अभी घास चरने गई है, वो जब आएगी तो उनको ले जाऊंगा, शाम को दूध निकालूंगा और बेच दूंगा, हो जाएगा मेरा काम. And this guy is like नहीं, you have to be doing something. मतलब कुछ तो कर, तेरे पास जवान शरीर है, टाइम है, मौका है, कुछ तो कर. So this guy asks कि क्या करूं? तो बोलता है अरे यार जा काम कर, थोड़ा और एक्स्ट्रा काम करेगा तो थोड़ा और पैसा कमाएगा, तो तेरे पास और थोड़ा पैसा होगा तो तेरे पास 2 गायें होगी, तेरे पास अभी 2 है, तेरे पास 4 गायें होगी। तो बोले ठीक है,
know
उससे
this.
क्या
I know
होगा?
where this is going.
सो देन दिस गाय सेज कि नहीं नहीं, कुछ करेगा तो तेरे पास जमीन होगी, 2 गाय की जगह 4 गाय होगी, 4 गाय का दूध बेचेगा, जमीन आएगी, जमीन तेरी खुद की हो जाएगी। तो दिस ग्वाला सेज ठीक है, उससे क्या होगा? देन दिस गाय सेज कि यार जमीन तेरी खुद की, गाय तेरी खुद की, तो डेयरी फार्म खोल लेगा एक। सो दिस गाय सेज ठीक है, उससे क्या होगा? एंड देन दिस कॉर्पोरेट एम्प्लॉय सेज कि अरे बस तेरा खुद का डेयरी फार्म, खुद की लैंड, खुद का गाय, सब कुछ खुद का होगा, उसके बाद आराम से बैठ के चैन की बांसुरी बजाना। तो बोले मैं अभी क्या कर रहा हूँ? This is our story of life.
Yes.
There is so much that God has gifted us. There is so much that divine has blessed us with. उसके मजे लेने की जगह है हम लोग बस लगे पड़े, hustling. You don't have
Yeah.
to do, my dear. Just,
True, true,
but
true, true.
thank you again. I unfortunately have this habit of sharing a lot of stories, but thank you
No,
a
which is
lot
great.
for
I think,
taking all this effort, for doing this fantastic session. I usually don't get into these podcasts, but first time I connected, I said I'm definitely going to talk to you. But
yeah,
thanks all of
yeah,
you guys who have invested your valuable time, or who will be investing your valuable time when you are
yes,
working. Get your focus and attention back. Get your basics back. Life will become blissful for all of us. But
yeah.
thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. To everyone listening, whether live or catching this later, thank you for being here. Your engagement, your curiosity, your reflections made this podcast what it is. And I couldn't be grateful to you for being on this journey. As I kicked off the season 2 today with this conversation with Kamlesh, it sets a tone of what's lying ahead, challenging the way we think, work, and lead in a world that is constantly evolving. This season is going to be deeper, questioning old narratives, beliefs, uncovering skills and mindsets we need to thrive in the future. If this episode resonated with you, if you ever felt like its time is slipping away, but deep down that it's your attention that needs to be reclaimed, then this is just the beginning. I'm excited for what is coming next. More conversations that push us to think the way we navigate work and life. Until then, pay attention to what your thoughts and where your attentions are going, because that's where your future is being shaped. Stay focused, stay intentional, and keep tuning into Journey of the Future on Career Shifts podcast. Find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. But of course, use the time, precious time that you have attentively. Till then, see you soon. Stay present, stay sharp, and reclaim your focus.
Thank
Sayonara.
you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye.